Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, but not for long because we're going to be out there on the red carpet again. But today, my guest coming in from Raleigh, North Carolina, we have Bexxie on the show today. Bexxie, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're super excited. You're going to be coming to Seattle here soon. We'll be talking about that
Yes.
in a little bit. But, thank you for coming on the show today. And, we got a lot of stuff to get through. Speaking of, let's jump in right into talking about that Find My Way, that latest
Oh,
release I was
yes.
rocking out to while I was doing my research on you this morning. Lots of energy in there. I mean,
Yeah.
what was the inspiration and the thoughts behind producing the track Find My Way?
So I grew up in New Jersey, outside of New York City, and raving in like the mid to late 90s. So I'm very like inspired by 90s rave music. So when I wrote that track, it was very much like I wanted to have some, old school like rave stabs, some like vocal snippets, but I also really love tech house. And so I wanted like a rolling bass and some like tom drums and my percussion. And so that was kind of what I came up with when I made Find My Way.
Yeah, it definitely took me back to, I mean, I started also going out in the early 90s,
Nice.
early mid late 90s, got into electronic music. My first nightclub I ever went to was in 92. When I say nightclub, I mean my first underground nightclub, which was
Yeah.
called The Underground, in 1992. And that introduced me to electronic music because I was more in the top 40 and hip hop and R&B. That was kind of prevalent along with the
Right.
grunge movement growing up in Seattle.
Yeah.
Bands were everywhere
Oh,
at
yeah.
that time. So, and then I got into going to the raves. And
Yep.
my first rave I ever went to was called Green X and Ham. And I kind of fell in love with the culture. I fell in love with the whole scene. And, we had our own version of, I guess, back in the day, what Candy Kids were back then and what
Yeah.
Candy Kids are now were a little different. But it was always going every week to find that all blue outfit that you could wear with and getting all dressed up and
Right.
funky
Yeah.
and wearing a really crazy different outfit,
Yep.
in those rave days. And when I was listening to Find My Way, I'm like, this is taking me back. It felt modern. Because if you listen to some music back then, the production levels, the sounds, the mastering, it was a little different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It
It's
felt it was
different.
way more fuller for a modern
Right.
mix, but still took me back to those
Yeah,
rave days, or
exactly.
early rave days.
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And you've had a couple releases this year, correct?
Yeah, I've had quite a few releases this year, yep.
And,
Yeah.
what was the release before Find My Way? What was that one?
So Find My Way was real good on Thrive Music.
Okay.
So again, I think with that one, I was going for like an underground warehouse vibe. It was definitely like a tech house type roller with like a vocal, like kind of just going for that like hypnotic, like just going for on the dance floor, like losing yourself on the dance floor sort of vibe. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, you just, after reading your bio, it kind of said you're new to this, but you've been
Yeah.
around doing stuff for a while. When did you start producing? You've been producing and DJing since the late 90s,
Yeah.
but was it just something recent that wanted to make you take it to the forefront and start getting out there, or were you always kind of underground
So
yourself?
yeah, so I started DJing when I was 16, so it was like late 90s, I guess. And like I said, I was going out to raves at that time, and that's kind of how I got into DJing. And then from there, like it, evolved into producing and all of that. And so I was doing that for a long time. It's always been a big, big passion of mine. I've loved dance music for as long as I can remember. And so, but like, life happens, and I took a break several years ago. And then just something kind of inside of me was like, hey, you should go back to this. Like, you should start DJing and producing again. And I did. So it was like 2018, I think. And so, yeah, I was like, I just kind of took baby steps getting back into it. So I got like a really basic controller because I had like zero equipment, like no production software, nothing at that point. So I got like a basic controller that I can like hook up with my laptop and just started mixing again and like relearning a lot of stuff. and then, put together a mixtape, sent it off to some local promoters, and like started playing some local shows here in Raleigh. And then I was like, yeah, love this. Still, like, definitely want to do this again. It's such like a huge passion of mine. And then kind of like got into producing. So I was like, well, let me like get a free trial of Ableton and start messing around. And yeah, just kind of went from there. So yeah.
And producing beats kind of is synonymous with sitting in front of a computer or sitting at a desk and sculpting and making them happen. Where do you find your free time to stay fit?
So yeah, I mean, time management is a big thing. And for me, like, because I do work a full-time job as well doing this. And I also, to me, like prioritizing my health and well-being, like that's a big priority for me because I feel like without that, I wouldn't be able to accomplish and do all the things that I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, I just make the time to do some exercise, some yoga, like some meditation, just fit into my schedule and do like a few times a week. I walk my dog like twice daily, so getting a little bit of that exercise too. So yeah, it's just a matter of prioritizing and then just like fitting it into your schedule. So
Absolutely. It wasn't for a year. I've come to the conclusion that without my to-do list, I would be completely lost.
yeah, yeah.
My girlfriend this year, I told her one of the coolest things I could do is put up this wall. If I had a wall, I have a whiteboard in front of my two computer setup. There's a computer here and there's a computer
Right.
here that I do my interviews with. I have a whiteboard above here for like quick notes.
Yeah.
But she's buying for my birthday, I had this idea that I wanted to get a bunch of butcher paper and take
Mhm.
a whole wall of my house and then write out my like 10 top projects that I'm working on with
Oh, I
everything that
love
goes underneath them to separate
that
them. And I could visualize it kind of like a self manifestation, but
idea.
to do list self manifestation and cross stuff off and go
Yeah.
with it. But yeah,
I have
and
a little whiteboard like right in front of me too, where I have like my
mhm,
to-dos and then I have like big goal like manifestation stuff that I
mhm.
can see every day. So yeah, I fully believe in that.
Yeah, it's just it's if you don't do that, I've burnt myself out 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 times. Even just recently, I almost burnt myself out because we increased our output, our outreach to over 800%. Of
Wow.
reaching out to
Yeah.
people, and I didn't know what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, the floodgates are open, and then it opened. And I went, oh, this is way
Yeah.
too much. I don't have time to do anything else.
Yeah.
I was like, because we were just doing so many interviews over the last, but now I got that dialed in and down, and it's healthy. And I got to
Yeah.
make sure you get out and get some sunshine, some
Absolutely.
vitamin D, and eat healthy and
Yeah.
sleep. One of the biggest topics I think at ADE, I've also heard about this with the Groove Cruise. They'll be holding kind of panels on mental health awareness, and things of that nature of burnout and success, and people trying to climb this and getting depressed or
Yeah.
just spending all their time inside and not getting out. And how do you combat that?
Yeah, I'm glad that they're doing that. I mean, I think it's very important and something that I'm always working on too. Like I said, well-being and all of that. So I think that's great that the music industry is doing more of that.
Absolutely. It's something that needs to be discussed, talked
Yeah,
about, and
yeah.
it starts at these higher level forums and starts to do the trickle down into other areas.
Mhm.
If you could take a look at the list of productions you've done so far, which of those stands out the most to you and why?
Ooh, which stands out the most? I feel like I need to like narrow it down by a theme here, but I'll try to answer that. Just my gut is telling me right now The Time, which was my last release on Anjuna Beats, which came out this year. That was definitely for me a standout release, definitely this year, because it was the first release that I've had where I not only produced the track, but I also like wrote and sung on it, and that was like a big goal of mine. So yeah, so for me that's the standout one.
Hmm. And if there's a piece of advice, something you would like to say to new and up and coming producers to watch out for when making their careers successful, what would that be?
Ooh, to watch out for. I mean, I think it just comes down to being consistent and putting in the work. Like you just have to like, well, as we talked about earlier, like the time management, you have to make the time, sit down, work on music, prioritize it, and just eventually as you finish more and more music and you get stuff out there, like you'll see things will start moving, opportunities will come along, and yeah, you just gotta keep working and grinding at it basically.
Awesome. I'm going to take a shout out because we just got somebody in here. It's After All, and Bexxie it says Bexxie is the best, definitely a fantastic producer, an amazing example as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
I love it when the viewers come into the chat room, and sometimes we pull chats. We have our vetted kind of question list that I didn't go
Right.
over with you. So you're seeing all those questions that are coming in the chat room right now are from fans of ours that they're getting questions from our vetted list and asking
Yeah.
them and trying to get into the chat like that. But definitely love it when we see other people come onto the show and fans and stuff.
Yeah, no,
There.
that's awesome. Thank
Now,
you.
did you get formally trained in music production? Did you go to school for this, or were you self-taught?
So, back in the day, early 2000s, I did go to the School of Audio Engineering in New York again because like music, it was a big passion of mine. It was like I knew that's what I wanted to do. And at the time, really, they only had like an audio engineering course. They weren't really doing these like music production courses that they're doing now. So I did do that, and it was good. I learned some great things, but obviously it was very geared towards like recording bands, but I did get some stuff out of it. But most recently, when I got back into producing, 20 when I was saying 2018, I decided to take this music production artist development course called Cosmic Academy. So I took that course in early 2020, and that really really helped me, I think, like get my production up to a level that I felt like more confident in, and like just learning like and relearning and fixing bad habits. And they also teach you like branding and how to sign records and things like that. So it was an amazing program. I credit it as like being like a game changer for me. And yeah, so basically, yeah, that besides like YouTube University,
Well, speaking of YouTube University, I mean, that is a great way to learn. I was actually speaking with somebody who has, I wish I knew the name of it. It's like a master course program, and it's like you can pay $20 a month or $30 a month, and you get access to all these master courses from all the top level people in the game,
Mhm.
and new courses as they come out. Oh gosh, I wish I knew the name of it. I can see the 6 letters in my head, and I know it's
Is it
AUL.
oh, sorry,
No,
what
it's
did you
okay.
say?
You know what? I could do this really quick. I got an idea. AUL. Oh, darn it. I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember.
I know like Fader Pro. I've definitely taken some of their courses. I'm not sure if that's the one you're talking about, but
No.
they've got some good stuff too.
Trying to do a Google search right now and I can't pull it
Okay.
up. And I'm so sorry. But it
No,
was
it's
such
all
an
good.
awesome masterclass. And the price points were really affordable for people to get into some of
Yeah,
these masterclasses, and everything was just awesome. But you yourself do tutorials online.
I
Tell us about
I
that and
do.
what inspired
Yeah.
you to start making tutorials and getting online and being part of that process?
Well, I think after taking Cosmic and like, I felt like I was getting better at my production. I was signing records and things like that. I always kind of had at the back of my mind that I would love to teach other producers, what I've learned. And so with Cosmic, they've asked me to do tutorials on their YouTube channel. So I have a few on there, and I'm actually mentoring students as well with the program. So yeah, but definitely going to be doing more tutorials on YouTube and just sharing, things that I've learned, like specific production techniques, things like that. So if anybody has any like, things in particular they want to learn, feel free to let me know.
Yeah. And do you think DJs should learn more about music theory, or does it really matter that much when it comes to actually DJing as opposed to producing?
I mean, I tend to I tend to mix and key because I feel like I mix a lot of like really melodic stuff, so I want it to like flow as best as possible. I don't think you need to know music theories like that well for like DJing. I think if you want to mix and key, it's like pretty easy to figure that all out with the software and everything that they have available. For production though, like I that was something like I took music theory in college. So before I went to SAE, I did go to another college for a little bit and I took a music theory course. But I'm not like a classically trained musician or anything like that. So, again, after I took Cosmic, probably a year after that, I decided I wanted to learn music theory. So I found this course on Udemy, and it was like a music theory for music producers, for EDM producers specifically. So it's really cool. And Udemy is also, very budget friendly. I think it was on like $15 or something. So I felt that just really helped me just to make sure like things were in key and things like that. Cause like sometimes they sound like it, but again, I'm not classically trained. So I felt that was really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of the mindset that I just like to continually learn and whatever new skills and stuff to help like my production, my DJing, like I'm totally open to.
If you could give a production tip or insight to new producers out there, what would that be?
Oh my goodness, that's a very broad question. A tip. So, well, I mean, it kind of goes back to a couple of the points I've already been making to keep it broad. I mean, this isn't like let me give you like a tip on how to like, mix your percussion or something, but
Yeah.
I think it's just being open to learning, right? And putting in the time. Like that's really what I think it comes down to if you want to produce music, finish music of a high quality, that's really what I think it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, do you have any bad habits that are beneficial to your career?
Bad habits. Oh my goodness. I mean, I guess a bad habit would probably be spending way too much time on my phone than I should. Like checking social and all of that. I do notice like when I'm spending way more time on my phone, it's like I don't feel great. So, but I know like, social media is obviously like a big part of, DJing and producing and being on there and sharing music and everything. So I do like to go on there and like connect with people for sure, but I do feel like there's a balance that needs to happen there. And sometimes I'm a little out of balance when it comes to that.
I think I've got my head wrapped around the whole TikTok phenomenon now.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
feel
That's
like,
something I've been spending more time on as well.
I mean, it's awesome. And, I was looking through services the other day and I thought I found this really awesome service that would take our videos and then would automatically make snippets of our
Mhm.
videos, then bring them down and put them up into TikTok
Oh, that's cool.
for us, which would be awesome. But unfortunately, it's only audio files right now. It's not video files.
Oh,
So I was like,
okay.
arr. So
Yeah,
basically, I have to
yeah,
have somebody go in and edit a snippet of the show and choose a certain time frame or whatever to do that. But
yeah.
I think it's going to come out. It'll be there. But yeah, I got lost in the TikTok rabbit hole the first time I really went into it, and I think it was 11:30 at night. I was laying in bed. I'm like, okay, let me see this video. Next thing I knew, it was like 3:30 in the morning. I'm still
Oh
just
my,
going.
I know, I've been there too. I like look up and I'm like, what just happened? Like, how have I spent this much time just like looking at videos on TikTok?
Exactly. Here's a question. I'm going to bring this in from Patty Q, and it is: what do you consider your biggest break that launched your DJ career?
Um, as far as DJing goes, yeah, I think my biggest break probably was signing a record to Anjuna Beats, because they've like taken me in and they do this with all their artists. They kind of take you in and you know um, they're just an amazing label to work with, and they provide you so many opportunities, and like they do a lot of events. So they've put me on a lot of the lineups and things like that. So yeah, definitely I think that's probably been one of my biggest breaks.
Awesome. And how would you define success as a DJ producer? Is it a Beatport top 10 hit, sold out tour, getting signed to a really awesome label? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely those, like, I guess what you'd call like vanity metrics, right? Like getting on a Spotify editorial playlist and getting so many streams and yeah, getting signed to like dream labels, right? Like those are definitely a definition of success for sure. And I have those, right? Like I do have goals like that I do try to work towards and everything. But I also like to try to look at success for me in like how I'm growing as a DJ and producer too, you know? So just like learning new things and how I'm applying it to things and am I connecting with people and like and again like we went talked about earlier with the teaching, like that to me like just I don't know, that's like a really fulfilling thing to be able to like share and like help people on their own music journey. So yeah, so like I said, there's definitely those metrics of success, but I also like to look at it in these other ways too, you know.
Could success people be people jumping in your live Twitch stream right now, like Suki Florence, and saying, Bexxie?
Yes. Hi, Suki Florence.
You are playing a number of different shows. I think your next, I had your list, I had your show list pulled up. You're playing a lot of different festivals. And how long have you been playing this festival circuit for? Is this your first time getting out there in all these bigger
Yeah.
events?
I think this year is probably like my first big like festival year, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And if you could choose one of those that you're really looking forward to playing, I mean,
Yeah.
you were just here you were at the Gorge in
Yeah.
Seattle. Well, in the Seattle area, I guess it's not really a Seattle area because it's Eastern
Yeah.
Washington, but it's a big venue and it's a big,
Yeah.
huge event for the LGBT Weekender, which looked, they're always awesome. And a lot of Injuna fans out here
Yeah.
in the Seattle area. Have you had a favorite one or one that you're really anticipating? You're like, oh yes, I'm playing this. Is there one you could pick and to talk about?
Um so well the rest of the shows that I have for the year are, I guess I wouldn't consider them festivals, they're more like club shows. So I guess I'll speak to the ones that have happened already this year. Um I would definitely say the standout one for me was the Gorge Amphitheater. Um First of all, I've never been to that venue before, and a lot of people were, you know, telling me beforehand, like, "Oh, like just wait till you get there, right?" And like, and the pictures do not do it justice at all. So yeah, so I could see what they were saying when they were telling me, like, just wait till you get there, because yeah, it's just an amazing, beautiful venue, and then you know the ABGT and the Anjuna fam, like they're just I don't know, there's just something about it. The Injuna fam's just amazing. It's all like positive vibes the whole time and I just had an amazing time. So yeah, that one definitely stood out for me.
Well, Suki Florence is going to bring her back on. Says we'll see you in LA.
Oh yay, I can't
And
wait.
number one on Earth sends hearts
Oh.
and a shout
Oh.
out to Suki as well. I'm going to give a cross promo to Suki in
Yeah.
there. Number one is coming in. But what's your best advice for others to keep themselves entertained during these long travels? Like, what do you do to stay entertained in between this? Is it fly back home, fly in, or are you
So you're
on
saying
time?
on the plane? Because I definitely binge watch a lot of Netflix on the plane, especially when I have these East Coast to West Coast flights. I do try to sleep just depending on the time of the flights too. But yeah, I think a lot of it I try to work on music as well if I can. But yeah, a lot of it's like reading and binge watching Netflix because it just makes the time go by so quickly on those long haul flights.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I'm taking my first time going to Europe here in
Mm.
about a week and a half to go to ADE,
Oh, nice.
and we'll literally probably be spending. Well, I guess the way with time zones go, it looks like it's going to be a 24-hour trip, but really it's like a
Oh,
14-hour flight
wow.
because of the time zone difference and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
It's I think it's like a 16-hour flight, and then it adds about 8 hours onto that. But
right.
I've never flown that long before, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to pack my computer. I'll have my computers with me.
Yeah.
I have my phone, but I'm thinking of packing my Oculus with me, and I'm hoping there's like free Wi-Fi on the
Oh.
plane, so I can play VR and be in our
Yeah.
VR nightclubs while we're going over
Yeah.
there and watch movies via Oculus.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm sure they'll have movies on the plane and the seats and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, they
But
usually do, yeah.
you know, but my main concern is jet lag. You know, and
Mhm.
dealing with jet lag. I usually don't get it going East Coast to West Coast.
Right.
But this is going to be like we're flying out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and we come in the next day at 2:30 in the afternoon. So
Oh,
it's kind of like
okay.
this all night fall
Yeah.
and then wake up, and I'm hoping I can maybe fall asleep on the plane
Yeah.
and then
I
wait like
know.
it's a day-long
My
trip.
suggestion is just try to sleep if you can on the plane as much as you can, and then when you get there, like, try not to go to sleep until, the usual, like,
Yeah.
bedtime on that time zone. That's otherwise, it could get really messed up, but that's my best advice for
That's what I've
you.
heard.
But I know sleeping on a plane can be difficult for some,
Mhm.
but yeah, if you can, do as much as you can.
And FYI, like I was mentioning, Suki Florence, if you love your Oculus, go to our website, check out our VR nightclubs. We'll have a lot of stuff in there, interviews and
Yeah.
more. I'll tell you all about that at the end of the interview, though. Do you have a favorite DJ? And if you do have a favorite DJ you really look up to or really revere, who would that be and why?
Well, I have like a lot of favorite producers that I look up to, and like I was saying earlier, a lot of my influence actually come from the early 90s. So like The Prodigy, for example, would like be a big one for me. Just because at the time, electronic music was not really that big, commercially like it is now. And so to see some of these artists kind of break through, and like there was this like show late night on MTV where they had some like videos of some like dance music, and like Prodigy was one of them. But it was just so cool to see, and it was so different, and it was like fast beats and kind of aggressive, and I guess like my teenage angsty self was like super into it. But yeah, it was just really cool to see, and I feel like that period of time was very influential for me, and the sort of music and DJs that were in that realm. But yeah, it's just hard to name one because there's so many different like DJs and producers over the years for me. So yeah.
I definitely remember that time in the 90s. I had worked for a music store, record store. Well, I say record store, but we
Yeah.
weren't ever selling records. It was CDs and tapes. But I don't know why I say record store. It's just maybe my dad, I grew up saying, go to the record store,
Yeah.
But no, I remember the electronic music section was a very small section
Mhm.
compared to, rap. You had the rap section, you had the rock section or the general section, which contained
Yeah.
everything, and sometimes you had it broken out by different genres and stuff. But, in what you'd see a lot in these sections were compilations,
Yep.
like DJ mixes. That's all you
Yeah,
really had. You didn't have separate artists making their own albums,
exactly.
and I
Exactly.
remember it was 2000 when I was at a Tower Records in Seattle, and I bought my first double disc Global Underground. It was Paul Oakenfold's Global Underground. And
I
I think,
remember I had a Paul Oakenfold CD too from back
yeah,
in the
those
day.
those Global Undergrounds really changed it for me because in the late 90s, it was starting to make headway into
Yeah.
the clubs, and the DJs were becoming the focal point of these nightclubs well, around the world. But, it was very awesome to, Sasha, Digweed, Tangelia. I hope I said his name right. I always pronounce it wrong. But there was that whole Global Underground
Yeah.
series was just
Yeah.
something that was, I mean, it was awesome, and I
Yeah.
think that really, and then obviously then I started Crystal Method,
Yeah.
and the Vegas album.
Yeah.
I think it was Vegas.
And Orbital, like I remember
Orbital, definitely
seeing
Orbital, the
them
Orb,
live, the Orb,
Fat Boy
yeah.
Slim,
Yeah.
DJ Shadow. I got really into as
Oh
well.
my god, I
Huge,
loved DJ
huge.
Shadow. Yeah, yeah.
So loved him so. I might say this sounds weird. Loved him so much that I used the introducing. I used 2 tracks off the introducing album for my first film I made in college.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so cool.
yeah, it was really cool. I've
So
been trying to
I'm
get
gonna
in.
I'm gonna share a little embarrassing anecdote
Oh,
about
go
me
ahead. Go
with
ahead.
DJ Shadow, but I had in high school there was like a computer like media class, and we had to make like a slideshow presentation on anything we wanted, like just whatever we were interested in. So I did one on DJing, and I put like a little clip of DJ Shadow like DJing in it. So yeah, big fan of DJ Shadow.
Yeah. It's just that led me into also getting into more trip hop and down tempo
Hmm.
ambient as well, which didn't have a side. It would go in the electronic music section of the store, but it wasn't heralded as like Deep
Right.
Forest and Enigma. They didn't
Yeah.
know where to put that back in
Yeah.
92, 93. So but definitely love that stuff. Speaking of tracks, making songs, making tracks, what's one track that you currently play in your setup, in your mix, that you use that it's like kind of your go-to, or you're going to include this in every time you play, and describe in detail why it's such a great production?
Okay. Well, lately for me, that track, we're gonna choosing not one of my own tracks. Dom Dollar's Miracle Maker. Uh, it's just such like it's got that early 90s vibe. Every time I drop it, like the crowd goes nuts. It's just such a good track. It's just got like that like um again, it's like the early 90s vibe but with modern production, so it sounds really big and full, right? But he's got this like 90s stab as like the main like melodic chord progression, and then Clementine Douglas does the vocals and she just like nails it. It's so good. And yeah, every time I drop it, it always goes down really well.
I think I actually, let me check this out. I'm going down to an event this weekend, a big festival in Phoenix, Arizona called Gold Rush. And I believe we're supposed to be being hooked up with an interview with Dom Dollar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'll
my,
be
my,
awesome.
my, my UK outreach PR person is friends with him. And I sent him
Oh,
over the list of who's
cool.
playing down there. So, we're going to have a lot of fun at that festival called Gold Rush coming up here. And October is going to be a crazy month. It's Gold
Yes,
Rush next
it is.
weekend, and then it's ADE the following weekend after that. And I've like blocked out time for decompression from both
Yes.
because, like I said earlier, that jet lag probably coming back is going to be
Oh my god,
murderous.
yeah. It's gonna be rough. You're gonna have such a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Have you been over to Europe before?
I have, yeah. I was just over in London for the ABGT weekender
That's
there.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. I
yeah.
was
And
over there.
I hadn't been to Europe in several years, so it was so cool to be back.
Yeah, it's my first time. I'm super excited. And we're kind of central to everything. We got some really
Yeah.
awesome stuff lined up there.
Amsterdam is such a cool city. You're gonna love it.
So, speaking about being behind the DJ booth, what's the best experience you've ever had behind the DJ booth? Is it these current shows that you're playing, or was there something maybe in your past that said this was one of the most memorable times I've ever had behind the DJ booth, and why was it so memorable?
Yeah, well, I know I just mentioned this already, but the Gorge, the first so they did a Friday night, I guess it was like a pre-party night, and basically they asked me to play this ping pong tournament on the Friday night, and I didn't really think anything of it. It was just like kind of like, okay, ping pong tournament, that sounds interesting, fun. I'm not really sure what to expect, but just kind of like put together just like a set. I thought of just some fun like dance, housey dance stuff to play. And but it's like a big tent, and I get on stage and it's completely rammed, and and there was a ping pong table and people were playing ping pong, but I could only just kind of see the ball like flying over our heads because it was packed. Everybody was having an amazing time, people were dancing, and yeah, we were just vibing. It was just so much fun. And so yeah, that just really stands out to me. And like I said, the Injuna fam, they're always such a good time.
Awesome. Want to make sure I get this shout out in for you. It's Emily Ann is obviously excited with Suki Florence. So excited. We're gonna pop that in.
Oh,
So excited. We got a bunch of people chatting from your channel coming in because the channels merge when we use the new platform that we're doing.
oh yeah.
Kind of really awesome. So I just want to give that shout out. Make sure Emily Ann gets her shout out in there.
Yeah. Hi,
You know,
Emily Ann.
is there something that you feel is kind of messed up when it comes to the electronic music world, or the electronic music scene? And if there is, if you see something, what would be your suggestions on how to go about changing that?
Messed up. I mean, we were talking a little bit about, mental health earlier and
Mhm.
all of that. And I think we're starting to make strides. I mean, obviously, there's been some tragedies in dance music and in EDM where, we've seen like Avicii, where that happened and everything. And so I think that this is still like an issue that needs to be like definitely more prevalent, more talked about. Um, I think anxiety and depression, they're especially, with the pandemic and everything, like I think it's just a lot on a lot of people's minds at the moment. And so yeah, I think I wouldn't say things are messed up. I just think that there just needs to be more awareness and figuring out like how we can kind of help and support each other, like within the scene with artists, all of that. And yeah, and just trying to figure out some better ways of coping. I'm obviously not an expert in this, but yeah, I just think that that's a big important thing to talk about.
Yeah, I was in another interview recently, and we were talking about how do you have how do you make the elements a safe party environment,
Yeah,
and without taking away the culture of the party and away from it.
right, right.
I mean, a lot of it is synonymous with, when you go to party and there's the alcohol, there's the drugs,
Mhm.
those things that come along with that people bring. And how do you keep that out or keep it contained? Or, there's organizations like, I think Dance Safe,
Dance
and there's
safe,
the other
yeah,
bigger ones that, walk around, the volunteers go out and they're making sure
yeah.
that people are hydrated. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
huge one,
yeah. Oh,
you know.
yeah, especially these
Um,
festivals and it's hot and yeah, yeah.
you
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
plan on it.
I'm glad that they have stuff like that for
Mhm.
sure, yeah, that is important for people to be able to do that because these things, they're gonna happen, right? So, if there's ways to prevent, people having a bad experience, then
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely. What do you believe the best piece of advice you've ever been given is regarding your artist's career?
The best piece of advice. Oh, this is a tough one. I'm trying to think. Um, Best piece of advice, I think, is to just and I couldn't tell you who told me this, but I know somebody told me this at some point, but I think it's just be true to you as an artist, just make things that you love to make and it'll resonate with people. Is if you're trying to do something other people are making or copying things and all of that, it just I don't feel like it's gonna come out like the way you want it to. And I think you should just do your thing, be yourself, be your unique self. That's what we need in the world.
If I had an AI that could go through and grab the text of what people say after every question and then like rank it and what the answers are and kind of like know that that's what you meant, and
Yeah.
that is one of the top things I hear from a lot of people that I interview is
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure you're not copying,
Yeah.
you're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
Own your own thing. If you hear a track say, "Oh, I want to make it like this," you could use that sound and go, "I like that,
Yeah.
but I'm going to make my own thing over here." Don't
Exactly.
try to copy it, and expect success out of that. I've even heard you'll get short term successes, but you
Yeah.
won't get long term gains.
Right.
In
Yeah.
that sense.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's a kind of it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. People
Absolutely.
have been doing this game for years,
Yep.
and building stuff up, and I tell my team that all the time, my resident DJs I work with, and you know like this whole year we've been spending the whole year focusing on one kind of goal, and that's getting more international attention, more international outreach, and not focusing on more of our local stuff that we're doing.
Right.
Because we were doing local events and local, and that's great at the local level, but we want the DJ sessions to be an international brand.
Yeah.
And if I had $500,000 to throw at this, I'm sure I could do everything I want,
Right.
but we're still very grassroots and kind of getting our foothold in there and building our name. And that's why I was mentioning earlier, the gentleman Luke, who I work with, is getting me in touch with Dom Dalla for the interview. Even those are strategic partnerships,
Yeah.
strategic outreaches that we're doing.
Yeah.
But
And
it
going to
takes
ADE,
time.
right?
Going to ADE, that's kind of our
Yeah.
big crescendo of this launch this year is go. And
Yeah.
then next year we have plans for a label launch.
Oh,
We'll start getting
nice.
really active in Metaverse as well, with our 2 VR
Awesome.
nightclubs, and having a lot of more live streams, local events. And we just launched a division of our company down in Arizona, and
Oh,
getting that up and
cool.
running. So it's
Congrats.
kind of like a bunch of, like I said,
Yeah.
that big wall
There's a
thing that I
lot going
have,
on.
a lot
Yeah.
going on. Speaking of projects, what would be your dream project? What would be something if you said, I could just do this, money's not a factor, Black American Express card, put it on your budget and you don't have to pay it off?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Um, I mean, I've thought about like, and this is in terms of music or like anything.
Actually, anything, anything. Yeah.
I mean, I think music's always going to be a part of these big dreams that I have, but I mean, I've always thought about like, do I want to start a label at some point, right? I'm not sure that I'm there yet, but that's definitely something maybe at some point. I'm not sure. Um, Maybe events. That would be really cool. And I think like, being able to do events kind of like we were talking about earlier, like, making sure that they're a safe space and there's diversity on the lineups and mental health awareness and all of that stuff would be, amazing. But yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And I feel like something that I really need to like think about, like, what are these big, big dreams that like, if I had a Black American Express card, like you said, what could it be? So I don't know. I'm just kind of brainstorming as we're talking here.
That's great. I mean, it's that's the thing I love about live interviews and not sending questions to the guests
Yeah.
beforehand, and getting the honest, real feedback.
Yeah.
It's there's no, I don't think there's a wrong answer on the DJ sessions,
Yeah. But
and
okay, I
yeah,
actually just
go ahead,
thought
go
of
ahead.
this, and this has nothing to do with music, but I've been thinking about this a lot lately about like what will I be doing in retirement, right? Like what would I like love and envision my retirement to be? And I think it definitely has to do with something with like a farm and animals, like rescue animals.
Hmm.
I love animals and I don't know, just trying to figure out like ways to kind of like give back to the earth, I guess essentially,
Hmm.
and just yeah. So I think something like that would be amazing.
One of the questions I usually ask, that comes up from time to time is, how do you envision your life in 10 years from now?
Yeah.
What do you see yourself doing? Will you always be doing music? And a follow up with that is, do you see there being a retirement age when it comes to DJing and producing? Because, and then one thing I bring up is, Carl Cox just turned 60 years old. He's still out there. And,
Amazing.
I think there are ways that DJs and producers can burn out or their life
Mhm.
obligations that come into play. But
Mhm.
at what point does somebody say, okay, I really can't be doing this anymore. This is just taking a toll. I've been staying out till 3 or 4 in the morning for the last 30 years of my life,
Yeah.
and 30 years of my life would put me back to 18 years old, but I was going out when I was 15 years old.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's like 33 years of my life. And
Yeah.
I'm not getting old, but I've morphed into doing other things like my
Yeah.
show and even our events are daytime events that, we kind of gear it towards family friendly because the people that are my age now have kids and they
Yeah.
can't get their kids into a nightclub or they want to see the headliner DJ, but they don't want to wait till 12 at midnight and get
Right.
home at 2 in the
Exactly.
morning and have to worry about babysitter and all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. But I think that's a good goal. That's an awesome goal. It doesn't necessarily have to be music related if somebody was 10 years from now, but doing what your passion is, if that leads up to it, and this was a stepping stone to get there, I think that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I think about that too, like in 10 years, because so I am turning 40 this year. So in 10 years, I'll be 50. So I'm like, will I be DJing then? Maybe. Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you like how my life, because like honestly, my life has gone, I feel like so many different directions in my point, and so I couldn't tell you what'll happen in 10 years, but would love, it'd be great if music is still a part of it. And like I love the teaching aspects, so that's something I can see like myself doing more of for sure. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, right?
Um, Final few questions here. If somebody wrote a biography about you, what do you think the title should be?
Oh gosh. Oh god, that's a hard question. Um, what's the title of my biography? Um, okay, this is really putting me on the spot. And I can't think of anything.
Okay, that's what I asked these questions for.
Yeah. I don't have anything. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You know what? Because we're going to be following up with you. We stay in touch with all of our artists to come on the show at least every 6 months. We want to be talking to them. Let's save that question for next time. We'll think
Okay.
about it. We'll
Yeah.
pull it up next time in 6 months. And one other thing. Have you been asked to do anything in virtual reality? Have you looked at Metaverse? Is that on your radar at all?
I haven't actually. I mean, I've only just kind of, done some light research as, Meta kind of came out and there's like a lot of news around it, right? So yeah, so really only just like some basic knowledge of it, but yeah, no, not really, but it's interesting to me. But I would just obviously have to know more about it.
Yeah, I've always been an adapter to new technology for the last 30 years. And, we see Metaverse as that kind of new branding opportunity outside. It's going to be a new social experience,
Yeah.
and I think we're going to hear that Metaverse term a lot more, especially with, Facebook, you know, Meta,
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
what they're doing. But more and more that's going to be developed. We actually have, like I mentioned a few times, a couple nightclubs in there that we're super excited to do and have. And we call the first one we had was beta because it's literally a beta launch, and we haven't even
Yeah.
got to version 1 yet. But we're going to do like meet and greets, or these interviews, our live interviews will be in there and on the schedule and the calendar, and let people know they can come in and watch it and interact with each other. It's going to be really awesome. That and augmented reality, but we'll save that for down the road.
Yeah,
Talk about
cool.
that. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you go?
Um, so I mean, really just about like some upcoming shows. Obviously, we talked about Aura in Seattle. I'm super excited about that. And I'm playing the ABGT after party, the 500 after party in LA coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend, the 15th. I'm playing with Genix and Fairplay at Genix Warehouse 55 party. So I'm super excited about that. I'm going to be playing a very ravey set. Like I'm just picking out all the stuff that has the early 90s influences, like, so just wanted to like go full on with that for this one because I feel like the vibe is going to be like 90s warehouse rave, so super excited. Yeah, but got a lot of shows coming up. This month is going to be pretty busy for me as well with those shows, and I'm playing a local show in Raleigh at the end of the month, a show in Charlotte, and then I've also got Miami and New York. So yeah,
Where are you
lots.
playing at in New York?
Oh my gosh, I'm going blank on the venue already. I had to look it up. Hang on a second. It's like, from what I remember, it's like they've got like what do they call it? Like aerialists and stuff at the venue, I think. It's hang on one second.
I went to your Insta right away, and I don't see the New York
Yeah,
date.
I need to add it, but it's at Moonrise.
Okay.
So they do a Nouveau Circus immersive performance. So yeah, it should be really cool. I'm really
I got to
excited.
check that out the next time I
Yeah,
go back there. I was there last year. I went to the Brooklyn Mirage for my first time, and
nice.
saw one of our resident DJs, Lucy Tudor, open up for Lane 8 and Lay Youth.
Oh,
And it was
cool.
just like, I fell in love with that place. I love it. I got this
Yeah,
really cool Airbnb that I'll always stay at in Brooklyn. It's
nice.
about half a mile from the Brooklyn Mirage, and it was just a phenomenal time,
Oh,
phenomenal
cool.
club. And I got to get out there and experience more. That's kind of my thing now. Is I don't really go out nightclubbing in my home city that much anymore. I'll go to Aura, of course, because
Right.
Aura's the best,
Yeah.
in Seattle. But I want to go out and visit these other
Yeah.
mega clubs, these huge places, and start
Yeah.
getting those things and stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
still
Well,
haven't been to Brooklyn Mirage, but hopefully get to play there at some point. It'd be really cool.
yeah, it's an awesome venue, awesome space. All right. Well, on that note, where can people find out more information about you? Where's the best place to go?
The best place would be my Instagram at Bexxie Music. Yep, there it is.
Awesome. Bexxie Music at Bexxie Music. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Bexxie. We're, like I
Yeah.
said, going to follow up with you, stay in touch with you. It's always our goal to stay in touch with everyone every 6 months and get them on the show and find out what they've been up to, what releases,
Yeah.
what shows, what tour dates, and everything they got going on. So again,
Yeah, thank you
it's
for having me. Yeah, no, I
absolutely,
would love to come back, so just let me know.
absolutely. Well, I'll make sure we'll be talking offline about this after the interview
Yeah.
a little bit. But thank you so much again for coming on the
Yeah,
series show
thank
today.
you. Bye,
You're welcome.
everyone.
On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Meta, and probably anywhere else out there as well under the DJ Sessions. But don't forget, you can also find out more information about our VR nightclubs in Altspace. Also, we're on Roku, Amazon Fire, Google Play, soon to be Apple TV, streaming live, and you have the mobile app you can download to your iPhone or your Google device. I'm your host, Darren, coming to you from Seattle for the virtual sessions with Bexxie coming in from Raleigh, North Carolina. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.